putting pressure. The greatest of all time, and now the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
Who has got the biggest claim to become the fighter of the year? Return of John Jones at the start of the year. Leon Edwards obviously retaining his belt against one of the best welterweights of all time.
But where's Conor McGregor, mate? Do you know what I mean? A lot of titles have changed hands.
We also posted a graphic where it was literally 2022 was 8 title changes, and then this year it's also been 8 title changes.
And there's only, 12 divisions? I've enjoyed the turbulent waters. I think the general consensus is that Sean Strickland is the fighter of the year, Tom. I just think that's what everybody, like, that's the obvious choice.
Can we not just say that that's like the upset of the year? Though, does that necessarily immediately get you fighter of the year because you've scored an upset?
Like, it should be quite a contest, but it doesn't feel like it's a contest between a lot of people because a lot of people haven't actually fought this year. Most people have one fight or two, or they're still geared up to defend. A couple of people who have had good performances like Charlie Olives, he's only had one. He has to beat Islam to be in that talk. Sean O'Malley, if he can defend the belt, again, maybe. It's like you need another fight, really.
Is fighter of the year also a popularity contest as well? Arguably, the fighter of the year doesn't have to be someone who's won a championship, does it really? I mean, you do have guys in there that have won 2 or 3 fights in the year, moving up the ladder and had good wins. I mean, before we started, you said
Ian Gary and Jack Della Maddalena are like two. I haven't looked at everybody, but they're both on 3 wins.
3 wins?
Definitely the most highest ranked guys who've won 3 times this year. And Ian has a fight in December. So if he beats Vicente Luque in December, that's 4 wins for Ian. Pretty good year. If he gets a first round finish over Luque, I could definitely see him being given fighter of the year. Depends what everybody else does. I mean, that's a pretty good year.
To be fair to Ian Gary as well, he said, I want to fight 3 times a year and I want to be champion in the next 2. At the moment, he's doing it. And he's not just doing it, but he's doing it spectacularly as well. I thought the head kick finish against D-Rod, I thought he was going to lose against D-Rod. I did think he was going to. Yeah, I did. I thought he was going to.
D-Rod's really good.
I don't know.
I thought, well, because we didn't really know.
Overrated.
He got dropped by Song, right? Came back, he won that. But obviously, that was he got ridiculed, actually, about being dropped by that guy and almost finished as well. That was a really sketchy moment. Obviously, came back and won that. I thought D-Rod was quite a large step up for him.
Well, I think D-Rod had that really big performance against, was it Mike Perry? Where he just looked really crisp, really clean. And after that, your expectation of what he was able to achieve stepped up.
D-Rod was just coming off of a close decision against Li Jingliang.
Lee always gets matched up, but he does. He's getting matched up at the
he
top
got Tony
of the division,
Ferguson.
really.
Like, they were supposed to fight Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, but I think Li Jingliang has had a really good career so far.
Like, just on that fight, I think D-Rod was just, his style was way too basic to fight someone like Ian Gary. It was like Ian Gary was always going to be too technical for him, too switched on.
Yeah, but a lot of people didn't think that,
he set him up easy.
Yeah, but
like, he made it look easy.
Yeah, but a lot of people didn't think that going into the fight. A lot of people thought it was going to be a really close
this isn't
fight.
I was right, but I genuinely thought, like, I don't see how this is like the perfect layup for Ian.
I don't know.
Regardless of whether it was or it wasn't, he won it with flying colours, and now he's moved on and he's going to be fighting. The fact that he beat the fuck out of Magny as well.
That's the thing, that he's backing up his performances. I mean, he seems like the real deal, and like, Luque's the guy you fight. If you're a finisher, to finish Luque is quite a challenge.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the question, right? If he can get past Luque, then actually, to be fair to Gary, he's probably got a pretty decent shot at being not fighter of the year, but in the ranks, in the top 5.
I would say if you were drawing up like contenders for fighter of the year, if he gets another win, he'd have to be in anyone's list of top 3, top 5, because he's won 4. No one else has won 4 fights. If Jack Della Maddalena gets another fight and wins, then he might have won 4, but 2 of those were like very competitive fights that were quite close as well.
Against non-ranked
It really
guys
depends on the
well.
performances, but like, if you were having a genuine discussion about it, you mentioned that we talk about Ian a lot. If you get four wins, you can't really argue with that.
If you're going on like a meritocracy and you're going on the fact that where he's got himself in that time, definitely you'd have to argue someone like him. But it's like a few years ago now, but like when Kevin Holland did his 5 fights in 1 year, like, that's amazing, really, because no one puts a schedule together. Maybe Donald Cerrone or something at one point, but different.
So it's like the parameters, isn't it? It's like what actually makes fighter of the year. What, like, not just achievement or accomplishment of the year, because I think everyone can agree that Sean Strickland's probably won accomplishment of the year. However, he did beat Abus Magomedov as well.
I don't think you always have to win, because Volk lost to Islam this year, but then he got the win back defending the title against Rodriguez. If he got another title defense, I would still consider him, even on a loss, because of the storylines around
The fact
it.
he's so dominant as well.
So it's kind
Now,
of
lots of people also arguing Islam as fighter of the year as well.
There's no way.
And what's he done this year? Defended the belt against Volkanovski.
And
gonna fight Oliveira.
fighting Charles in
Oliveira,
like 2 weeks.
So if he can get that win as well, does he have a shot at fight of the year?
No, because he's beaten Charles really like quite convincingly. If you just beat him again in a similar way, what does that prove?
Usually, you know, the UFC put out those videos that are like the year of the fighter, and that's who the fighter of the year usually should be. It's like the person who's like, oh, this year was their year. Sean Strickland's kind of feels like it's Sean Strickland's year if it's anyone's year. Whose year does it feel like we're going to remember?
Well, also, it totally depends on whether or not John Jones can manhandle Stipe. If John Jones just goes in there and just wrecks Stipe, which is a massive possibility as well, do you then look at John Jones and be like, holy fuck, who can challenge this guy?
I think it would be more. I don't think it's anyone's year, because there has been so many title changes in the past 2 years. It would be, if he beats Stipe, it'd be like John Jones when he became the greatest fighter of all time, like without a doubt.
Do you feel, looking back on it, that John Jones's ascent to heavyweight champion, or at least that win over Cyril to become two-weight champion, was kind of not as grand as it could have been?
He didn't fight the champion. He didn't in fighting Ngannou, who was the best guy we had at the time. Jones had the seemingly obvious advantage over Ngannou in the wrestling department. I think if we're going to hold Stipe to the best heavyweight of all time, we all acknowledge him to, because he has held the belt for most defenses. John has to beat Stipe to earn that kind of...
Would that eclipse what Sean Strickland has done this year?
Yes, because then I think you become the greatest fighter of all time.
I think he'd have a really good case, especially because it's the year he came back.
Pound for pound, right, is that your skills transfer to any weight class. And if you can jump up from what is 205 to 265 and beat the best guy, how are you not the greatest fighter?
It also proves he could possibly have beaten him that whole time they were reigning together. I mean, I think he's going to walk through Stipe. I really do. So it's kind of like, it's not a given in any way that he's going to win, but the only thing we can't really look at is what is the actual reaction to that going to feel like? Because it might feel massive. And
Yeah.
like it might feel
But
like
that's
a
the
massive
thing,
moment.
is like Stipe's
And then-
already lost that allure of like
true.
power. I don't think anyone ever looked at Stipe as like invincible or unbeatable, because he had been beaten by streams and
Overeem
stuff
also
like that.
dropped him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, like
Also,
Exactly.
he couldn't finish Daniel Cormier in their last fight, and Daniel Cormier was like, apparently his back was so severely injured, that's why he didn't wrestle.
The thing is, Stipe's, in my opinion, has taken so much more damage than John over the years, whereas John has had the time to... Probably the time that he was off was not just to get himself up to heavyweight. It was probably just to recover from the fucking like years of wars that he's had. What if he does just do Jorge Masvidal running flying knee and KOs him, or does something crazy like a fucking Michael Venom Page 360 spinning
or
back
even just
kick?
like chokes him unconscious and drops him.
Yeah.
Like Machida style, you know.
Oh, look at that. Do that pose again. So if you which the great thing about the members is you can
Showing
see
really
that
hard.
face
How long the face
on a
goes.
regular basis, right? If you join the members,
You can look like that.
you can see Luke do funny impressions.
Yeah,
and-
there's not a lot of that, but what there actually is, though, is 2 podcasts a week. Would you like to join?
I know.
You know, going back to the Jorge Masvidal, that is the perfect year, isn't it? Like when you think about a guy who kind of was at the end of his career, took a Darren Till fight because it was like a good fight for him to take for where he was, and then he just blew up and became the star. Is there anyone right now in MMA who's, you know, not necessarily got to a title, but really blew up and become a star? Or is there like a Jorge Masvidal transcendence in any kind of way? Like, what about Justin Gaethje? What Justin Gaethje did this year?
Yeah, he's done
Did
really
he have
well.
a good year?
Yeah, but the only thing about Gaethje, as much as we love him, his track record doesn't show us anything that we're to get excited
But
for.
does that matter? Does a track record matter when it becomes just the year as well? He beat Poirier with a beautiful head kick, and then what was the
Rafael Fiziev.
and that was
Oh,
a
yeah,
great
Fiziev in
fight as
London.
well. Are we too trigger happy to go Sean Strickland because he beat?
Well,
Izzy in
I
an
feel
upset?
like, well, the thing is with Sean
Well, he's
Strickland...
had 3 wins this year, Sean.
Has he?
Yeah, he's had 3 wins, yeah.
The Boos.
He was it Imavov?
Yeah, Imavov.
Fucking hell.
I think
Okay,
it,
so
I think
yeah.
it was Imavov.
Okay, so yeah, that does make him fight of the year.
Yeah, and
Yes.
the fact that he beat a highly touted guy on very short notice.
He had that dip. He's come back in 2023 and really kind of
And
overcome
that's the
as
thing.
well.
The Izzy we saw in the second Pereira fight looked like he could beat anyone because he'd finally knocked out the guy who'd beat him 3 times in a row in a devastating way. And then it's like, okay, so now he's like this next level that we didn't know he could get to. Like, who beats him now? And then Sean gets thrown in. You think, oh, okay, this is going to be a slaughter. And then Sean just absolutely shuts him down every minute of the fight.
Well,
Since
I'm
Anderson Silva,
just going to say, because people might call you out on it, I'd say he probably did lose 2 of those rounds.
So people were saying even Charles, if he beats Islam.
The magnitude of what he would do if he beats Islam's pretty high, right? To beat that guy that no one has beaten since Adriano Martins?
What about, now, this might sound silly, what about considering O'Malley? So he came in as an underdog, goes in there, knocks Aljo out inside 2 rounds, or maybe 6 minutes. This was an Aljo who's fought Henry Cejudo, he's fought TJ Dillashaw, rematch with Jan, dominated Jan. He had beaten all the best people there were and at the top of the division at that time. Sean comes in, completely nullifies anything Aljo tried to do and knocks him out in 6 minutes.
That's what you love as well. You love the story arc of being able to take the rub off of someone who's
Yes.
already had
Yeah,
quite
he
dominant.
definitely did that. Also for Sean as well, it's like it was like the culmination of like the slow build, the not rushing him and then pushing him at what they thought was the right time. Also, I think Sean was just like, okay, I'm getting a bit older now as well. Like I need to fight for the title.
I think the fact that O'Malley went in there and he didn't wrestle at all for weeks and weeks on end. He had tore like a muscle tear or something, and any kind of clinch, any kind of movement together with someone on the ground, whatever, he just couldn't do it. It was too painful. And so to take your title shot opportunity and still go for it, and that fight have to go as perfect as it needed to knock him out when he did, it adds on the fact that it is much more of an achievement. So it's like when you put all the context together, I know that doesn't directly correlate to being the fighter of the
it's
year,
one
but it
win.
shows.
Well, I'd say it's way more of like a performance of the year. Could even be knockout of the year. It was such a clean knockout as well.
Do you consider the
was a
records?
TKO.
Like O'Malley's fighting the most dominant champion in
Sure.
bantamweight history, who seemed unstoppable,
But you
who
can't-
was saying, "I'm going to go fight Volk and
Yeah,
beat
but
him."
like you can't make an argument for him to be fighter of the year because he's only fought.
Why
once.
not? He's going to be the next biggest star.
Yeah, but
ever.
he's only fought once. You don't. When did they ever give fighter of the year for fighting once? Has anyone ever won fighter of the year after having just one fight? I mean, Leon's had a pretty good year as well. No, but he's fighting again. He's fighting Colby. It's just strength of schedule. I feel like is one of the most important factors. I think you're right. Obviously, the context of the fights matter, but it really is strength of schedule. Like every fighter of the year, it always feels like pretty hard to argue with 3 really good wins. This is just theoretical because obviously it's not what happened. But if Drickus had fought Izzy and won, I think he could easily be fighter of the year. You got Brunson, the Whittaker upset, and then he beats Adesanya, wins the title, first title really like from coming
It's
out
almost
of
like
Africa in
Strickland's
that way.
come in and stolen that
Yeah,
away
he
from
definitely
Drickus
has. He's
as
like
well.
stolen fighter of the year possibly as well. Like,
Yeah.
but Drickus isn't going to fight him before the end of the year, so that's it maybe for the rest of the year for Drickus. He's waiting for that title shot. So based on previous years, it's only been champions who have done crazy championship things.
But yeah, still up for debate, I reckon, until we've got the rest of the year down. What isn't up for debate is how good Howler Head is, because
Nice.
it's won the awards to tell us that it is the best whiskey. Bourbon of the Year award goes to Howler Head, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does actually.
Yeah.
It probably is my new favorite whiskey of the year.
Howler Head, obviously, as you guys know, you can get it in larger Tesco's, Master of Malt, and Amazon, and of course, Alex. Now you can get it in Mexico.
Yeah, that's right. Necesitas to Howler Head, mucho Howler Head. But yeah, it's now available in Mexico as well.